Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Chad Bice Touch and Base. I wanted to at least get this video up as to where I'm at currently on week 3 project. It's about 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday, and so I've got about another just shy of 3.5 hours to put into this week 3 effort. But I wanted to get this video up, and I'm going to probably try to update it later tonight before midnight if possible. It depends on the bandwidth that I've got here at this hotel I'm at, visiting my parents for their anniversary weekend here on Chincoteague Island, just outside of where I work at Wallops Light Facility. And they're out having fun, and I'm going to sit here and do the best I can to keep working on this. But anywho, as you can see here, I've been researching on this for the past few days. The first couple weeks have gone pretty smooth in terms of getting everything situated and the basic functionality that I was hoping for from the app, with the code and some of the basic aesthetic and design. However, now really getting into this week 3 portion of trying to incorporate the framework Flask that I'm using, since I'm using Python, it's a little more complicated than I thought. At first I was like, maybe I should have done this in PHP, but I said I was going to do it in Python and with Flask, and so I'm going to finish what I started. Nonetheless, as you see, did some research here how to incorporate Flask into Python, and we have our installation here for virtualenvs, and kind of just how to with that, doing it through the terminal. One of the things I realized is initially when I built out the week 2 feature, I was using from an older class in DPW. I was using Google App Engine Launcher. Now again, this code that I have that I was running was the reusable library, which is as you can see here, where you enter your first name, your last, your email, 50 time for your race in swimming, so let's say 30 flat, and then the 25 time, which we'll say is 12.75. And basically what this does is it spits out, says, okay, hi, first, last name, and here are your converted times for 50-meter short course, 50-meter long course, 25-meter short course, 25-meter long course. And again, I'm going to try to get these short course equations corrected, because I don't think those are the right times conversions. And of course I'll clean this up a little later with the aesthetic. But again, this is all initially strictly Python code, not too much of Flask really involved at that point last week. So moving forward, I was initially trying to do it here in Google App Engine Launcher to see if I can merge the two, which is where I came up here with how to incorporate Flask into Python code. A little more complicated than I thought to do it that way. So for time's sake, I started reading about more how to use Terminal, and run it through there and setting up the folders. And it says Introduction to Python's Flask Framework. This was an article that just kind of showed how to use sudo and pip and apt-get, etc. to install the framework and to set up virtualenv and the different aspects of it. Now, this hasn't really been too complicated, really setting up the initial file settings. As you can see, I could go here and my project in my users folder, and I got Flask. I've got the vnvev file, or the vnvev file to help support functionality. Then I've got the Flask, the application. I got a README, the routes Python file, and I got the templates here set up, home and layout, and the static set up for getting CSS imagery, JavaScript, anything that I'll incorporate with that a little later on. But basically, was trying to get that all set up and trying to get it to run on the local host. Now, of course, one of the errors, I know he wanted us to talk about errors, and I've run into quite a few this week. Still doing a lot of debugging and trying to get this figured out, so I do apologize if this video is a little long-winded. I just letting you guys know where I'm at. Here are the templates that the taught us to set up, with layout and then home HTML. Again, I'm a little unfamiliar with the percentage signs here, but I think I've researched that and understand a little bit more about it and how it functions in terms of it being called by routes.py. Now, the issue I'm running to as of present, initially I was having an issue where, as you can see here, I looked up, I was having a traceback issue where the error was right here. Can't find main.module.in, and I eventually figured that one out and formatted that properly. I had to do a lot in terminal, as you can probably see here, to try to format the flow, the cascade of the files properly. Go into terminal, and I got a bunch of code in here from really troubleshooting all of that, and I won't go through all of that too much. I'll probably just to let you know, just show you I've been really working quite a bit on this and trying various different things in order to get it to function. So I'm going to clear that out just to clean that up. Well, yeah, I'll boot out for now though. Yeah, I'll close that. And I'll come back in, and then of course I figure out the directory. In this case, the directory is my project, and then the next file was my project, then Flask app. So we'll change directories to, and then the next one was app. And then as we get inside, now we're in the routes and the templates and the static. And I would go into the routes file. So go into the CD routes py. Okay, no such file directory. Okay, I'm not sure exactly why that's claiming that right now. So let me see, Flask app. Oh, I got to go into app first. Sorry, app, and then. Okay, now I'm in the routes py, and then I would call it by saying Python routes.py, and okay, and as you can see here, I believe it's running, if I'm correct, but it's saying, okay, no module named Flask. Let me see here, routes py line 1, and import Flask render template. Let me see where I was. Refresh this page. Okay. Well, that recycles the issue. So hold on a second. I think I had to take routes out for a second. Get rid of that folder. Just run it as a file. Then run this down here. Sorry, I got a lot of stuff on my desktop right now. Bring routes in. Keep that there. I'll go back a directory to back to app, and then we'll say Python routes.py, and that is my dad calling. I'll call him back. Okay. Alright, for some reason it's giving me an issue again, but let me just show you what I was dealing with. I'll get back on that to get that corrected again. But where I was, no, not there. In that situation was I was in this situation where I had it running, where it was finally running on localhost 5000, and then it's giving me this thing about where it's saying the template is not being found. And if you look in the code, I'll get this error. I'll get at least this error back in a minute. But it took me a while to get that first part figured out. I'll get it figured out again. And actually, my project users might have been a separate folder. I'll have to look at that in a second. But what I'm running into with this issue is going into my projects, Flask app, going to the routes.py, and you can see here that I have the render template being called, and then the name, the route, and then you got this function here, and it's saying render the template, and then home HTML, which of course is in the templates folder and properly formatted, I believe. And then of course you have the if name, and then just the debug feature running to let you know if anything's messing up. Well, obviously the debug feature is running because it's telling me that the template can't be found, and I'm looking for the home HTML page. I'm a little lost at the moment, and I've been going through something here, for rendering templates, and then I've also looked up a little more with some of these things on Stack Overflow, and that's where I'm currently trying to troubleshoot right now. Moving forward, this was a Python tutorial that I was using for Flask in terms of incorporating Flask. A lot of what this covers and that, and some of these other things we're covering, etc. This was like a 4-hour video. I watched the whole thing earlier, and I'm still trying to go through and incorporate it. But the big thing I'm going after I get that troubleshooted is okay, that was a lot of the that's from Geek Trainer. Those were their files that they had to emulate. Is here the simple CRUD-like admin interface with Flask and the WT form. What I'm aiming to do, if I can get it done tonight, Lord willing, is again, this is a bit of a tutorial. This gentleman here structures this more like a blog setup, but he's got his code down here where I'll be using SQL Alchemy and tying that in with WT form, so I can basically you install Flask, you install SQL Alchemy and WT form, and basically set up the code so that information can be created, read, updated, and deleted. And so I want to use that to try to tie it in with the database through SQL Pro and get that situated. I know there's a lot of code here. I probably won't need all of it to emulate what I'm trying to go after. And of course the whole general spiel of that is to take it out of Google App Engine Launcher into its own local host and to get Google App Engine. And come down here to where you have the reusable library, and create a separate file down here that'll have the updated forms with Flask and everything. So, but yeah, basically just to show you that, so I can take this data, have it recorded into the database, and my goal will eventually probably be to have some HTML structure so it will display on the second page the way you see. Put in the times, and again, display database-wise with, of course, an update and a delete button. So if these times need to be updated, they can just do it right there rather than having to necessarily go back and re-enter the information, etc. So that's where I'm at. I do thank you all for hearing me out. Any help on some of these things I'm troubleshooting would be great. and that would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, I'm going to keep trucking along. Probably push this one as far as I can to the midnight deadline, and upload this video in the process. All right, thank you all, and we'll talk with you later.